good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to another edition here on the NE Patriots Talk channel. It's the same core four. Welcome back, Austin. We missed you in the previous session, but how are we doing, everybody?
Yeah, doing great. Glad to be here.
Well, wait, go
back
ahead.
Chatting football with you three. After a long day at work, it's moving plants, customers, moving plants. Standing on your feet all day. I admit I get a little jittery before this chat for certain reasons, but hey, we're here, we're talking ball, we're having fun. Let's go.
Today is going to be the final live stream. We're talking offense, and then starting like next weekend, we will be talking about defense. But to conclude this offensive series on this channel, we're going to be talking running backs, fullbacks, and tight ends. So yeah, let's get it started. Let's bring in the stats for the running backs and the fullbacks, and yeah, let's get it started. So when we take a look at the running backs, which of the running backs do you think should be your bell cow running back? I'll start with you, Andy, and then yeah.
So just taking a quick look at these data here. So we have Stevenson, we have Gibson, who had, as you can see, as a Patriot, 31.6 yards a game. He started, 120 attempts, 538 yards. Not bad for his first year as a Patriot. If you wouldn't mind just scrolling down to Trevion Henderson here, the big guy out of Ohio State. He had 1,016 yards in 2024. His long was 66. And let me tell you, as much as, you got Stevenson, the veteran, you got Gibson, who had a decent first year as a Patriot. Henderson, looking at these numbers and listening to Vrabel talk about him and his, he had some, let me look at these. He had some pretty sweet receiving yards too, 312, 284. Looking at those numbers, as did Lan Larison too, when you go farther down with 847 in 2024. But he's a UDFA. So all things considered, I think I'd lean, hearing Vrabel talk about him, I'd lean Trevion Henderson as my bell cow RB.
How about you, Austin?
Yeah, so I could definitely see a pathway in which Trevion Henderson does eventually become that bell cow, but I think to start he's going to be playing more of that third down James White role, and also on blocking downs. I think the bell cow is Ramondre. I know the big thing with him is the fumbles last year, most in his career by far. I think he had like 2 followed by 3 followed by 2, and then it like jumped up to 7, and you can attribute a lot of that to shitty O-line play and the coaching staff, but at the end of the day it does have to come down to the player too. So but I think he's in for a solid bounce back behind this new coaching staff and this upgraded O-line, and I'd be interested to see what he does, because realistically his best year came under Matt Patricia, funnily enough. So I think giving him, Vrabel and McDaniels and just letting him loose, because I think even his rookie year, he was sharing the ball like probably 60-40 with Damian Harris. So I think really like just let him go. So I would put money on probably Ramondre being the bell cow.
Yeah, I'll let Moonshine talk, and then I'll throw in a point. Go ahead, Brian.
Okay, well, I do see, kind of going back off of what Austin said, I can see a world definitely where Trevion Henderson does end up getting the bell cow role or being like the starting running back. Definitely is seeming a little more possible. I know Ramondre hasn't been here for at least I don't think he's been there, or very limited at OTAs. But I'm going to probably give it a little bit more till a training camp and let these guys actually kind of show out and give us some competition and see who does perform better. But if Ramondre goes in the training camp and he starts this weird ball security crap where he's just not wanting to hold onto the ball at all, I'd definitely say please give it to Travion Henderson, but considering he's been in the league for a little while now, he's shown flashes. He's definitely been a good running back. They got him a better O-line. They got him better staff. I find it hard to see where he doesn't at least start the season as a starting running back. He could definitely mess it up. He definitely did bad last year. But I'm going to have to go Ramondre Stevenson for right now. But I'm definitely going to be keeping an eye on him in trading count.
Oh, Andy, you said you were going to have a point after Moonshine's spiel.
Yes, I did. Austin, I know, and Austin and Dow and Moonshine, I know how you guys have all been talking about how I don't want to say you're high on Ramondre because of his veteranship, if you will, that he will be the bell cow running back at least starting in 2025. And I completely see that, because thinking back to, Austin, your reference to 2022, there was talk in those early games, would he, be a top 5 running back in the league? And that was under Matt Patricia and Joe Judge leading the offense. And obviously, he had a fair rookie year under Josh McDaniels. Del, if you wouldn't mind scrolling up just to him for a wee bit.
Don't mind if I do.
Boom. So he had 24. I mean, he had those 7 touchdowns. It was the most touchdowns he's had as a Patriot. But, I mean, those fumbles, like we've been talking about forever and a day, you had what amounted to, you had the most porous O-line in the league last year. I mean, that could easily throw a guy like Mondre off his game. You had a decent offensive coordinator, but, let's face it, sometimes there were times when it seemed like the coaching staff as a whole couldn't find their own way out of a paper bag. So, but yeah, my point was I'd like to see it be Travion Henderson. That's what I was talking about earlier. Would not surprise me one iota if it is Ramondre Stevenson is the RB1 going into 25.
I would like to add something too. If the Patriots are more focused on ball security, you can definitely break it down to kind of fumbles. And you look at Ramondre and Antonio Gibson, and statistically wise, since entering the league, I believe they're in the top 5 for most fumbles. And if you look at Travion Henderson, he has never fumbled in his collegiate career.
Yeah,
So if it gets to a point where, Ramondre starts coughing it up and they throw Gibson in there and then he starts coughing it up, there's no better guy to, I guess we'll give you the ball because you never drop it. Okay.
He'll definitely make a case for himself. If some of these veteran guys start messing up, he already has the case where, I can be your starter. Just give me the ball. Give me the ball. Just give me the ball. I'll show you. I do feel like he can have that kind of game happen where those two just aren't doing well at all, or maybe even worse, God forbid, one of them gets hurt and they need somebody to step up. I could see him being on the sideline, just give me the ball. I will show you. I can handle this. Just give me the ball. I do feel like he has that it factor, is what I'm trying to say, to me.
Understandable. The thing with Ramondre Stevenson, last season he had a poor season because, if I'm not mistaken, last season I think he led the league in fumbles next to Breece Hall, but fumbles lost, I know he had 3 fumbles lost, but he had 7 fumbles as in last season, and we could say that the O-line was poor as itself. But the one thing to note, the way Ramondre Stevenson holds the ball, it's in the he holds the ball like this. Generally, you want to hold a ball like this. That's why you can secure the ball. But the way Ramondre Stevenson holds it, he holds it in the most precarious situation, because if some defender pops the ball, that's not good, and he needs to fix that. And I don't know if he continues to hold it like that, I can tell you that there's going to be more fumbles, regardless of how bad the O-line situation is.
Right, because all the defender has to do is run into him, and that ball is out. I mean, the defender has to barely tap him, and boom.
Or just
Down you go.
like a well-placed tackle where
That
they
too.
lead with the helmet
Mhm.
into the football. Like that causes a lot of fumbles.
It does. Absolutely.
Does
Because
it-
that's
does
how
it
you know
seem
how you have
like-
a linebacker going at you head on and pew,
Has
down you
anybody else
go.
noticed like that was a bit of a change? Like I feel like it was holding the ball differently back during like his rookie season. I do remember him like having a different technique as the way he carried the ball. Not
Did
exactly
it also
sure,
play
though.
into the factor that during Ramondre Stevenson's rookie year and his second year, he had like a coach who was more of a defensive coach, but it was his first year as a running backs coach, and now in Alabama he's a defensive coach. I forgot his name.
I can't remember his name off the top of my head either.
I could briefly look him up because I know for a fact that the new running backs coach is let me find his name. His name is Tony. It's Tony Deuce, who was the running backs coach for the Jets. So he's worked with Braylon Allen, Brees Hall, and then yeah. So the fact that you have a running backs coach for the Jets, that's kind of concerning. Because he's worked with because the second running back that led in fumbles is Brees Hall. So that's my little concern with Tony Deuce, but anything can change anytime soon. So I actually looked him up. So the running backs coach during 2021 was Ivan Fierce, who has been the running backs coach for 19 years. And then you have Vinny Sunseri, who was the running backs coach for 3 seasons with Ramondre, and then the year before that he was the New England Patriots defensive coaching assistant. So and then he was the safeties coach after he had his stint as the running backs coach. So once again, I just feel like I don't know if it's like coaching that has to do it, or it's because Ramondre Stevenson still has this habit carry on from Oklahoma City that he holds the ball like this. But
I honestly feel like it's probably just a player problem at this point. I mean, he did good his first year as far as I remember. One thing I picked up on is like his fumbles, his ball security in general really seemed to be in question after he had that like major injury. I think it was in 2022, 23, where it put him out for a good half of the season. It was like ever since he came back from that, he just struggled. Like he's been a step behind. And of course, the whole ball security thing, like him holding the ball that way, I feel like that changed up to then as well. I can't even remember I can't remember exactly what was his injury again.
Do you want me to look up his injuries for a quick second and then?
Yeah, go ahead. I keep spelling his name wrong.
I could look it up, but in the meantime, who do you guys should be like the second stringer behind Stevenson if he is going to be your bell cow running back? Oh, you found injuries, Dustin?
I'm getting it pulled up. Stevenson
didn't he? Oh, he suffered a high ankle sprain week 5 against the Dolphins, and that injury sidelined him the following game against the Texans. He was ruled, and then he has been upgraded, expected to play for the Jaguars. So I think it was like a high ankle sprain, but I could be totally wrong. I don't know. Oh, let me take a look at his injury history. I think I have the list.
He has dealt with several injuries, including a thumb dislocation in September 2021, a head concussion, and a knee strain in November of 2021, and an ankle sprain in December of 2022. And in 2023, in December, he suffered a high ankle sprain, followed by his foot sprain in 2024 October.
It was a grade 3. And then a pedal foot, unspecified, grade 1, and he only missed the game against the Texans. I'm
kind of wondering if health is his body just even able to keep up with production that he's wanting to do? Like, I'm starting to wonder about his durability. Like, is he going to be able to remain that bell cow running back? It's not a good injury history list for a guy who's been in the league since, 2021?
Yeah.
All of it being around in the ankle and knee. that's been the one thing that kind of has me held back. Like, I'd be more for
Travion Henderson.
Yeah, that's just for him to be the starter, just because of like this history right here. I mean, I don't know if he continues to get injured like this. I don't see how he stays in the league much longer, or has a starting job at this point. I don't know. That's questionable to me.
This is why I was not a huge fan of the Ramondre Stevenson contract extension because
yeah.
I think the last regime it still consists of Elliot Wolf. I just did not understand why you extend Ramondre Stevenson where he didn't even barely hit the 1K mark when it comes to like rushing yards, because generally like a good running back would at least hit like 1,500 yards, but Ramondre Stevenson in particular, his touchdowns have increased a little bit, but when it comes to rushing yards, it doesn't hold up to itself. And he could be a potential cut candidate or a trade candidate now that we're like already in like a June 1st. So he could be potentially a cut candidate or a trade candidate if he continues to play like this, even though, yeah, he had a piss poor performance last season.
I think you blame some of the contracts given on the coaching staff last year. And I only say that because when you have a coaching staff that's inexperienced, do you really want to go out and try and sign new guys regardless if they're better? Or are you going to try and take care of your own and take care of the people that have already been in the building that are going to help you try and like get up to speed? So I can see it from that angle where, they hand out the contract to Ramondre, to Duggar, to Godshaw, like the people that have been in there in the trenches kind of fighting. But yeah, now that you look at it, you're just like terrible contract, and terrible contract.
Yeah, you gave them those contracts because you thought these guys were going to be pillars, and then last year happened where we were plagued with injuries, just terrible coaching. It fell apart the moment you thought you had your pieces. At least your foundation fell apart right when you thought you had it set.
Yeah,
and yeah, it was great.
I just felt like, regardless with Ramondre, I just felt like I would have like resigned. I would resign at least like one or two, or extend like at least one player during last year's free offseason. And because most of the players that we resigned or extended last year were all from a 4-13 team, and I felt like only if I were Elliot Wolf, or I were the general manager of the Patriots last season, the only people I would have re-signed were Hunter Henry, Michael Onwenu, and then I would extend Christian Barmore. Everyone else could hit free agency for all I care. But with Travion Henderson, I could see him being like a running back too, because he could be like your 3-down back. He has all the mechanics, excuse me. He can like be your receiver. He could be like your true running back, as like he could be like the next James White as like a comparison. What do you guys thought? So I'll start with you, Andy.
So
we lost you for a bit, Andy.
Andy, we cannot hear you at all. We can't hear you.
Oh, I'm muted.
There you go.
There you go.
So you're talking about Travion potentially being RB1.
Yes, if Ramondre Stevenson fails to improve his technique.
Yeah, I am 100% on board with that. I mean, looking at these numbers, I mean, it is college ball, which is a different animal than the NFL. He had 2,000-yard seasons it was Ohio State, one of the best offensive programs in the country. He had 2,000-yard seasons and then one near 1,000-yard season. Look at these touchdowns, 15, 11, 10. Even when he only had 571 yards, sorry, his average per game yardage was 13.3. So I know we have we've been talking about. I've heard people talking about him in a potential James White role, and we would all love to have. I'm sure we would all love to have James White 2.0. We obviously didn't see that when he first came on the scene. But yeah, Trevion Henderson, if Stevenson completely craps the sheets in training camp, 100% RB1, I'm on board.
How about you, Austin?
Yeah, so I mean, Trevion Henderson definitely brings a lot of good qualities to the team. Obviously, the receiving aspect of it and the third down blocking on pass plays and just as explosiveness. My only concern is while at Ohio State, whenever he was given that bell cow type of role, both times he did get injured. Now, it doesn't mean like the production isn't there. It's just I think it was too much on his plate. And then you saw this last season when he had Quinshon Judkins, like he was able to, really still flourish, but he wasn't, expected to go out there every play and be like, we need you every time. So I honestly think Trevion performs best when he's splitting the backfield. And on top of that, I think the NFL is even getting away from that total bell cow role. I mean, you still have like the Derrick Henrys and the Saquon Barkleys of the world, right? But those are kind of the outliers. Just look at the Lions, what they're doing with David Montgomery and Jahmyr Gibbs, Sonic and Knuckles. Like it's proven in the league, not just now, but even before, that you can have two heads to one serpent and just ground and pound your way and catch the ball and be efficient regardless.
Oh, by splitting the backfield, you have two double running backs. Yeah, I see. That's exactly what the Lions do with Monty and Gibbs, 100%.
How about you, Dustin?
Yeah, I could definitely see a world now of actually looking over Ramondre Stevenson's injury history again. I forgot exactly how many injuries he suffered over the years being with us. I could definitely see that possibly hurting his case of being a starter, or at least if he does start, the way his history is showing, he's going to get injured again sometime in the first half of the season. And then if I had to have somebody else be my number one bell cow, definitely Trevion Henderson. The way I see it right now, as far as the way I rostered, is just my picture of it. Ramondre and Trevion are gonna be like your two-headed serpent, as Austin was alluding to. You could do the dual backs in the backfield. You can definitely do that. You could start a drive with one running back, finish it with another. You got so many different styles with Ramondre and Trevion and Land Larison, Terrell Jennings. You got different kind of styled running backs in here with what McDaniels is wanting to do, his running back by committee. Everybody is going to have their little role, little piece in making this roster shine. But I could definitely see it starting out Ramondre and Trevion being like the bell cows, being out there almost every play, a drive or two. Maybe Antonio Gibson relieves one of them if one of them maybe getting a little bit banged up, tired, and needs to recover a little bit. I definitely see. I hope Land Larison. Yeah. Everybody here knows my stance on Land Larison. I'm not even gonna do it again. I'm not gonna do it again. But yeah, that's it. Definitely Ramondre and Trevion are my 1 and 2 combo. My 1-2 combo. Yeah,
like a two-headed monster. But speaking of injuries, like you alluded to, Austin, so Trevion Henderson's injury history includes a broken bone in his foot in 2022, which caused him to miss 5 games, and then an undisclosed lower body injury in 2023, and then also experienced some time off due to that injury in 2024. So, yeah, some of it has to do with not having the best durability when it comes to Trevion Henderson, but if he could do what the Lions did with the Sonic and Knuckles, as you alluded to, Austin, there's a chance that we could see some production with what the Lions did. But there's a possibility we could do what the Patriots did years ago when we had Sony Michel, James White, and Rex Burkhead, when we brought in three running backs during McDaniel's tenure as the offensive corner, because I know there was success with that when we had Jonas Gray, Shane Vereen, and LeGarrette Blount. So I could see a 3-down combo, even though what the Lions did has been successful with Montgomery and Gibbs. But who would be your third running back if to pair up with Stevenson and Henderson? Because I know you guys were I know some of you guys were talking about Antonio Gibson, but I know his stats kind of dipped ever since he joined New England. I'll start with you, Andy. What are your thoughts on Antonio Gibson, considering that his stats took a dip?
Okay, so I'm looking at Antonio Gibson now. His touchdowns 11, 7, 3, 1, 1. Average yards per target was second lowest in 5 years. Average yards per game. And you know, earlier on, before looking at these data, I would have said, yeah, and you know, before the draft, I would have said, bar none, Antonio Gibson's your RB2. I forget how much of a you guys remind me, did he play much of a third down back role last season? I think he might have.
I don't remember.
I'll be honest, I've been trying to forget last season, like, completely. So
we can none of us here can blame you. Austin, go.
I think he did, because the only other option was like
too.
Terrell Jennings or Jermichael Hasty. So I think.
Oh yeah, I forgot about Jermichael Hasty.
I think it was mostly him.
Yeah, I do too. I agree with you there. So now I'm completely happy for going Antonio Gibson for Lan Larison. You know, after we signed him in UDFA, I was like a different position, but Efton Chisholm, rah, rah, rah. CJ Dupre, rah, rah, rah. Lan Larison, who in the flying Lord of Christ is that? And then, you know, somebody threw up a video in the main chat, and there was all this excitement. Lan Larison's a Patriot. I was like, who? So I watched his video. Man, can that guy run?
He has to make the roster, dude. He has to make the roster.
100% has to make the roster.
Like, seriously, if he doesn't make the roster, he goes to a practice squad, he's getting signed. Like, we will not see him.
He's getting swooped up faster than you can say football. And tell me how idiotic it would be to carry 4 running backs. Have we ever done it? I'm not remembering.
We've done it before with
I think we have.
We did what was it? LeGarrette Blount, James White,
Rex Burkhead,
Shane Vereen, and maybe Dion Lewis or something. Like, it was like
Shane Vereen, yeah.
It was long ago, but I
think of like Sony Michel, James White, Rex Burkhead. I think LeGarrette Blount was with them.
No, LeGarrette Blount. I think he was with the Eagles during that time.
Eagles, yeah.
Oh.
But if we were to replace Lan Larison over Antonio Gibson, I want to ask you this, Dustin. Why would you prefer Lan Larison over Antonio Gibson? Because
I 100% would. My 2 cents, Dustin.
I like what he's shown. I mean, granted, I do want to say this with a grain of salt. As much as I do love him, he did play against lower competition. But look how he played with that lower competition. Dude was pushing people away, breaking tackles like it was nothing, catching the ball with defenders in his face, and it just didn't faze him. Not only was he making plays, he made every team's defense look like children. I mean, it just like children that just didn't know what they were doing or how to stop him. Like, it just didn't seem fair. He played exceptionally. Those, what was it, 2 seasons where he had like double the yardage each year. It just he's got the skills, and it's just the way he treated that lower division, whatever it was he was in. I don't remember if it was D2. It might even be D3. I'm not exactly sure, but
Hal Davis, I believe, is actually D1.
Really? Yeah, it's D1 FCS.
Yeah,
I did not. I
looked it up.
It sounds like DB, like Division 2. I thought I read. Huh.
Well, it's so it's in the FCS, but as you were alluding to, Dustin, of why he may have been playing against like lower schools, but if you look at the schedule, none of these schools that they went up against are top tier like schools. Like if you look at this, they lost to it, as UC Davis Aggies. That's the school that Lan Larison went to.
Mm-hmm.
They lost to California. They beat Texas A&M Commerce. They beat Southern Utah. They beat Utah Tech. They beat number 4 Idaho. They beat Portland State. They beat Cal Poly. They beat Eastern Washington, the school that Epton Chisholm went to. They beat Northern Colorado. They beat number 7 Montana. They did lose to Montana State. They beat Sacramento State. They beat Illinois State, but unfortunately, they lost to the South Dakota Bison, who are potentially the champions of the FCS season. So I could see your point of how it could be like a not so much of a big competition compared to like the FCS. But if you look at this at the time, I think they were ranked number 5 in the FCS as like the whole entire committee compared to like the FBS. So I understand your point, but Luke, I want to read Luke Neely's comment again, and I totally agree with him. Larison needs to make the team. He won't clear waivers. Another team will snatch him up, and Stevenson needs to step up this year. Next year's draft is a little light on bell cow running backs. Interesting, considering how this year's running back class it was a lot. There was a lot of good quality running backs.
A lot of quality running backs, yeah. Shout out to you, Luke. We appreciate you listening, my man. Dow, if you wouldn't mind scrolling down to Lan Larison for a bit, please and thank you.
Don't mind if I do. And by the way, guys, as I scroll down, I recommend you all, as you come into the live stream, to like and subscribe to this channel. It's completely free. It helps supports the channel. And as you come in to the show, and I type this in the top of the chat, please bring in your questions and comments. We really want to hear what your questions are and your comments, so we can have like at least a discussion of what on earth we're talking about. And the way we can distinguish the questions and comments, I would put Q for a question and C for comments, so that way we can differentiate. The difference. But looking at Lan Larison's stats, like. Yeah, yes, he didn't do much in 2020 to 2022, but for some reason, the last 2 seasons he has looked great. Especially when you look at the school itself, they have a new head coach, or maybe it has to do something with the offensive coordinator. So, but all of these could be different. It's just I don't know if it's like different offensive coordinators or head coaches, but it could all play to a factor of how Lan Larison should have been a name for himself and why he should have been drafted in the 7th round. I don't know why he got undrafted for some reason. But yeah, if I give you my 2 cents on like which 3 running backs should make the 53-man roster, who are they, Andy, and why?
So you said 3. Okay,
at least
3.
At least 3.
At least, I mean, I could name 4, but we'll go 3. Trevion Henderson, Lan Larison, Ramondre Stevenson. For now, that could change with time. Stevenson, because as we've all alluded to, we had a bad coaching staff last year. And Stevenson proved he can, be a good football player under a so-called offensive staff who had no experience coaching that side of the ball. The fumbles are definitely an issue. Like Luke said, that has to be fixed. If I had to hazard a guess, though, he makes the 53-man roster when all is said and done, thanks to his experience. And Dow, if you wouldn't mind showing me the data again.
Of Ramondre Stevenson?
Correct.
There you go.
Okay. So, Yeah, I definitely think yeah. So rushing yards per game 50, 61, 51, 53. Yeah, so I mean, I pretty much, agree with now giving him a second chance after that
Offensive
shit
line and
show of an
and
offensive line
horrible
last year,
coaching.
exactly. Trevion Henderson, because Trevion Henderson, because he has that James White type of potential. Not that he'll be a Xerox of James White, but that's, could well be his ceiling. One of the best third down blockers in college football last season. He does have the injury, Austin, as you alluded to, but which is why, I mean, at least starting off, we might not see as much of him. Of course, then Mondre is injury prone too. So what do I know? But yeah, with his, you're going to need that. You're going to need that third down back. You could potentially have that two-headed serpent if things go well with Stevenson and Henderson. My third guy is obviously Lan Larison. From a Div 1 school, was always blowing it up in the defender's face, can run like the wind. At back to back, go down to him again, please and thank you, Dow. He had back to back 1,000-yard rushing seasons. I mean, in one of those seasons, he played only 8 games in 2023. So the average yardage per game was 137.63. Again, we are talking a college running back, and then his receiving as well. I mean, if you look at Lan Larison's receiving, he had 847 receiving yards. You could almost, that was more than our leading receiver last year in Hunter Henry. So you could even, dare I say, use him as a receiver. I'm not going to go down that rat hole, but those numbers, I mean, are indicative of a guy who, who can almost play both a big wide receiver and a running back.
I wouldn't be surprised if there's one point throughout the regular season, like they're doing good. Like, just send Lynn Larison out there, because let's all face it, he needs to be on the roster. He's probably going to be on the roster. I mean,
Correct.
At least I think so. But anyways, like at some point in the middle of the week, they're doing a good game. Lynn Larison, go out there, screenplay. See how much you can get for me.
There you go.
It would not surprise me in the slightest if Josh McDaniels was to do something like that.
Oh, that'd be Josh McDaniels all over. That'd be Josh McDaniels all over. Can I see Ramondre's receiving, if you may?
Let's go to his receiving.
All right. So here we go. 123. Yeah, his highest yardage was 421. And that was
because Patricia, I don't know, they fed him, they put a lot on his plate.
Patricia loved Stevenson. That was his 1,000-yard rushing season.
And then under Bill O'Brien, it obviously took a massive dip.
Right. Yeah, and then under AVP, it dipped even more.
But it was the same stats for under first year under Josh McDaniels, but that was only because of his injury history.
I mean, the poor guys had seen 4 different offensive coordinators. I mean, you've got to think about how tough that is on a relatively young. Well, he's not young; he'll be 27. But, I mean, as you alluded to earlier, Dustin, who knows how long he'll be in the league with those foot and leg injuries. Potentially, 2 cents. Kind of want to speed things up here. Potentially 2 cents. My 4th running back would be Antonio Gibson.
How about you, Austin?
Yeah, so I just think 4 running backs make the roster, and I just think because each one offers something different. Yeah, Ramondre is your ground and pound goal line back. Antonio Gibson is your back that you throw in when you want that change of pace, when you want that elusiveness. Correct. I think Henderson obviously comes in on the third down plays and can provide catching out of the backfield as well as blocking. And then I think Lan Larson does a little bit of all three and can kind of line up anywhere. So
And he catches too.
He catches. He can throw the football like he played wild
Yeah,
card or
quarterback.
wildcat.
Yeah,
I mean,
wildcat.
so,
Yeah.
I just like all four of those guys making the roster. So
I do too. I'm right there with you. I mean, I should have given a brief explanation on Antonio Gibson, but again, kind of similar to Ramondre, coming off that shitty offensive coaching staff last year was probably one of the reasons his yardage per game actually went up, interestingly enough. But yeah, I definitely agree with you. I want to see 4 running backs on this roster 100%.
How about you, Dustin?
So I'm definitely seeing it as Ramondre and Travion being like your 2 bell cows, like them being the 2 main running backs. You see it on the field at most, wherever it be like they switch them out within a drive that they're on. They get to the goal line, someone's been on there long enough, send the other guy in. You also got a bit of a change of pace between the two. Ramondre kind of does better when he's on the inside, getting those blocks and able to explode. Travion, he can. I've seen him do a little bit on the outside, him getting along those tackles and getting out there for that first down. I did see him doing something like that, which I think Ramondre lacks. I think he's just more of like that inside runner. Travion can kind of give you a little bit of inside or out, as well as blocking and catching. Antonio, I'm seeing more of your receiving back, or maybe going out there in a 5 wider if they ever even do that again. I don't really remember McDaniels really running much 5 wide, but I mean, I know there was a couple of times I did see it, but I think it's like really rare to see him do 5 wide. But Gibson being your receiver, maybe out there in the backfield, you'll have like say Ramondre and then Antonio, or if maybe a Travion and Antonio, your 2 backs in the backfield. And then, of course, Lan Larson being my 4th back, because of course he's making the team. Y'all can cry about it if you want, but I'm saying it now. He's making the team.
No. That's, I mean,
I'm talking about the viewers. Like they can call me out saying that it's not going to happen. I'm going to say it. It's happening. It can be my hot take. It can be my hot take. I will see it.
I gotta say now I trust Vrabel to get it done. I mean, we'll see how he looks in rookie minicamp.
Yeah, but Lan Larson making the team.
You mean mandatory minicamp, Andy? Because they already did rookie minicamp.
Oh, they did. Oh, shoot. Yeah,
you mean
right,
mandatory?
Mandatory minicamp. Correct. Thank you, Don.
I didn't even catch that. But Lan Larson being that guy, like if they're having a good game or something and they want to maybe experiment with a play or something, send Lan Larson out, be like, hey, go for this screen pass, or like, hey, we're gonna fake a run and toss it out to you really quick, so be ready for it. Some little gadget play or something. But that's my running back room right there.
Yeah, I would agree with all 3 of you by saying potentially we're going to need 4 running backs, because I know, as Josh McDaniels knows, that he loves his running backs. No matter if they can run the ball or if they can catch the ball or can make all these wildcat plays, Josh McDaniels really loves his running backs regardless.
And so does Vrabel. He loved Derrick Henry.
Mm-hmm. So if I give my 2 cents of like, since you guys agree that the Patriots should bring 4 running backs, I could list off my 4 running backs, and I will go them in order based on like who should be the running backs 1 and 2, and then be the 3rd stringer and 4th stringer. So I would start with Stevenson first, and then Henderson, because it's considering hopefully with a better offensive line and with the better offensive coordinator, I think that he should get it done. I will be monitoring, however, with the fumbles because fumbles will kill games. And turnovers, we all know for a fact that that's what's going to cost you games. So I'm going to be monitoring these turnovers, however. But I would say that Antonio Gibson would be the running back 3, because I was looking at the stats. You may not look into this, but when I look at the fumbles, he had 0 fumbles during his tenure with New England. Regardless with his stats, rushing-wise and touchdowns-wise, he had
Gibson,
0.
I thought he had 2. Go over to that again.
So he had 2 fumbles during his rookie season in Washington, then 6 fumbles when he hit 1K.
Huh?
Then
I'm
he had-
not. Would you please scroll over? I'm sorry. I'm completely confused.
Let me.
Yeah, he had 2 fumbles with New England. I'm looking at it right now.
Scrimmage that. Then why am I looking on Wikipedia and saying that he had zero fumbles?
I don't know. Go to.
Because that's Wikipedia.
I can't trust that, bro. No.
Let me go. I'm gonna go get my phone right now. I'll be right back. Austin, I do trust you, but let me go. I'll be right back. Okay.
But as I was saying, outside of Antonio Gibson, I would obviously give the keys to Lan Larison if he can show out like he did in rookie minicamp and what he's doing in OTAs, because we obviously know that joint practices will be, wink wink, they're gonna be a huge priority, because joint practices will dictate how well the players look and how well disciplined the Patriots running back room as a whole. Because I love Lan Larison the moment we signed him. As I look at the stats, I felt like they were impressive. And if he could prove time and time again he could be that running back 1, I would have elevate him to be the running back 3 as a possibility, and then demote Gibson as the running back 4. That's my 2 cents on the 4 running backs. But Andy, I know you have your phone out, so please fact check this for me if Gibson had 0 fumbles, because I sometimes I don't trust Wikipedia, but you can fact check me if you want.
He 100% had 2 per PFF.
Okie dokie.
Yep. 1 against Indy and 1 against Buffalo.
The one at Buffalo or at home?
At Buffalo.
Okay, at Buffalo. So, but now let's shift over to the fullback, since we haven't talked fullbacks in ages, ever since McDaniels disappeared. But do you think we need a fullback in general? Let's start with you, Andy. What do you think about the fullback position?
I would love to see a return to the fullback. I would love to see a return to the fullback a la. Gosh, I'm blanking on his name right now.
Jakob Johnson?
Thank you. Yeah, because that just adds, we know Vrabel and McDaniels are both, they love their running game. And I know I sound like a broken record talking about this. The teams with the top running games made the playoffs last year as a general rule of thumb. And a fullback just spices up your offense that much more. Our offense has been way too vanilla, especially since we lost Jakob Johnson, but especially since we lost the one and only Tom Brady. That man can run an offense on his own, let's face it. But yeah, to have that kind of third, even fourth dimension to the offense that you get with a fullback would be 100% fire.
How about you, Austin?
Yeah, I think we need the fullback. Vrabel has been preaching for months now, since he got hired as coach, that we need to build in the trenches, and I think fullback falls right into that category. I mean, who else is going to go out there every play and have to lay the boom on these big old linebackers to pave a path for our running back, right?
Yeah, you've got the offensive line of your running back room right there, buddy.
Right. So, yeah, I mean, I'd love a James Devlin type, where he's also a type of receiving threat, also like a Juszczyk, I guess. Devlin's definitely a lot bigger than Juszczyk, but yeah, Jakob Johnson too. I just want to see a fullback and then see him properly utilized, and I think that will happen under Josh McDaniels.
How about you, Dustin?
I think under a coach like Mike Vrabel and an offensive coordinator like Josh McDaniels, I don't see how you go away from the fullback position any longer. Knowing those two, they love their heavy set formations. They love their 12-man personnel, their wings, their I forms or heavy sets. They like a good strong line for the run game and to mix in a couple plays like in a small passing game to break one free. And I think having a fullback adds to that, gives you that extra blocker, gives you that extra little punch up the gaps for your running back to get through. Do a little play action and toss it to the fullback if he can catch it, so he can just give you an extra target. Somebody else the defense has got to worry about. I think having a fullback is gonna spice this offense up a little bit. I think it's gonna give us a little extra to play with. I think it's gonna be more of a return of your heavy set formations, your 2 tight end, 2 receivers, your 3 tight end, 1 receiver, your I forms. You're gonna see a lot more heavy set. Essentially, that's how I think this offense is going to go back to. It's going to go back to the roots, and I think with that, we're going to have a very successful season. And to do that, I do think we do need a fullback, and I would like to see Brock Lamp the fullback for this team.
Ditto. I mean, I was running data for Travion Williams, and yeah, it's like, look, I mean, 9, 12, yeah. I mean, Brock Lampy, you're definitely looking at these numbers here. He's the guy you're gonna want to go with out of the two. 91 receiving yards isn't a lot, but it's the most he had over those 4 years. Limited snaps, but that's kind of what you'd expect of a fullback. I mean, Austin, you referenced Kyle Juszczyk. He'll be 35, but I would not have minded it. We signed him for a year. Ultimately, we did not. But now we have the chance to, bring the position back, and like I said, it'll open up the offense that much more, as open as it's been in probably 7-8 years at least.
Andy, do you know his passing block and running block grades for Brock Lamp?
Wait, I'm sorry. His passing block grade? Let me
his running block.
Let me PFF that for you.
And as he's looking up, I'll give you my 2 cents on the fullback position. I want to do what Baltimore and San Francisco are doing, because we obviously know that San Francisco has Juszczyk as their fullback, and then Baltimore has Patrick Ricard, who was the first team All-Pro fullback for the Baltimore Ravens. So if you could do what Baltimore and San Francisco did and bring back what Josh McDaniels knows and what he has been doing for the past 12 or 20 years, you need to bring back the fullback. As much as we don't talk about fullbacks, I think that it needs to be heard of.
So here you go, guys. Brock Lamp jumped in 2023. He was 63.8 run block grade. In 2024, that jumped to 84.5. If I go over to pass blocking, he jumped from 71.6 to 79.4.
Like I said, bring back the fullback position.
Bring back the fullback is right, and that jump was after a fall from 2022 to 23 by a couple of points, 74.8 to 71.6. Then he shot up to 79.5. So, and he is out of Northern Illinois. Let me just look up.
And then he went. Northern Illinois University. That's the school. And then. But yeah, I think that we need to bring back the fullback position, because nobody barely talks about the fullback position. It's always been the running backs, unless you can have some tight ends and convert to the fullback position. But that will depend if they can also run the ball or not. But that's my thoughts on the fullback position.
And Northern Illinois is Div 1. Northern Illinois is Div 1.
Is it a FCS or FBS?
I believe it's FCS. Let me look at that.
Because if I'm not let me see. Northern Illinois? Because I see Illinois State, but not Northern
It's
Illinois.
It's FBS. Football.
Interesting.
Yeah, interesting.
But yeah, I think that, like I alluded to, we need to bring back the fullback position just because we want to fulfill Vrabel's promise of wanting to build up the trenches and to make sure that we bring back what Josh McDaniels knows and loves. Like, you have a fullback and behind the quarterback, and then you have a running back, and then if we play the run game, the fullback position would be very crucial in my opinion. But let's now head over to one of my favorite positions, and I think one of the most consistent positions during a shitty time, and that is the tight end room. We all love our tight end rooms, but the question I have for you guys, since we know Hunter Henry and Austin Hooper, are your tight ends 1 and 2, which of the remaining 4 should be your tight end 3? I'll start with you, Andy.
So with Hooper and Henry pretty much locks to make the roster. We can go over their stats a little bit, obviously, because we're here. My third guy would be CJ Dupre out of Alabama. As we know, the Alabama offense is not that big on using tight ends. They're much more heavy on wide receivers. Hence, you see he's a tight end, but hence you see his relatively low receiving yardage, 256. If I go to from last season, if I look at say Tyler Warren on PFF. If I look, okay, here we go. If I look at Tyler Warren, he had 1,230 receiving yards in 2024. Well, again, we're talking college football here. But 256 versus the guy who should have been the top tight end off first TE1 off the board, 1,230. So that's a testament as to how Bama frankly underuses tight ends in their offense, which I think is stupid, but here we go. He started 13, he played 13 games. The touchdowns kind of do stick out to me. He hasn't had one since 2022, but again, that probably has to do with their being in love with wide receivers and to a lesser extent running backs. But yeah, he would be my TE3 to make the roster behind Hooper and Hunter.
How about you, Austin?
So I'm more of a fan of Jaheim Bell. I kind of want to see what he can do. I was kind of high on him coming out of college. I think he can be a versatile player, but I consider him more of like a lines up outside. I don't think he's an inline tight end like a Hunter Henry or an Austin Hooper. But I definitely can see the argument for CJ Dupree. I will add, I think it was like a live stream we did during the 53-man roster. And I was talking about CJ Dupree being a fullback, and everyone's like, no, he's a tight end. But I've seen some of his gameplay, and it's just like I think he could fit that role too of a fullback. Like I think it would bring good competition like between him and Brock Lampy, because I don't want to just outright give the job to Brock Lampy just because he's the only fullback. Like I definitely think there's tight ends on the roster that could fill that same purpose, fill that same role. But I would prefer Jaheim Bell.
How about you, Dustin?
Yeah, I'm going more for the CJ Dupree, just mainly because of that inline tight end. It's going to be more of what I feel like Josh McDaniels and Mike Vrabel are going to want to stick to. I mean, of course, you're going to have your Hunter Henrys, where they're going to be lined up on the outside as an extra receiver. And Hunter Henry is definitely going to fill that role, at least for this year, because I don't see CJ Dupree doing that. Unless for some reason they decide to sign 4 tight ends, which I'm really not seeing them doing. Maybe they give it to Jaheim Bell or G. Scott. I do see them being more like the outside type of tight ends, lining up kind of like a slot. I'd really probably give it to CJ though, just because I mean, he has most experience in that position at the end line. I don't really think many of these other tight ends play well on the end line, except for Hunter Henry and Austin Hooper, obviously. But that's my take on it.
Yeah, in fairness to Austin, in total fairness to Austin, let's just do you mind going up to Jaheim Bell for a little bit?
Don't mind if I do.
Thank you. He's had some touchdowns in there, 522. 503 receiving yards in 2023. Yeah, he's not.
With South Carolina, I know
Florida
he was
State
not.
and South Carolina, yeah.
I think I heard something about last year, like coming in like training camps and stuff like that. I heard he didn't like do too well. I believe it was like either training camp or the preseason or something like that. I don't remember, but I remember something going on that he wasn't really performing that well.
But again, we had who was running the show? We had Gerard Mayo.
You're not wrong. You're definitely not wrong.
You know, so Austin as a 100% fair point to wanting to see Jaheim Bell on this roster, because you can say pretty much with every guy who was here on the offensive side of the ball, and to an extent on the defensive side of the ball. The coaching last year, I saw it in the Discord chat, and there were people saying, there were a few people who thought winless season. It was 4-3. I was kind of rosy optimistic. I thought we'd do way better against the AFC South than we did. I thought 8-9 was in the cards. Alas, I ate crow. We all did. Regardless of how we thought the Pats were going to do. But yeah, like, you can say about Jaheim Bell, the same thing you can say about Ramondre Stevenson, the same thing you can say potentially about Javon Baker and Jalen Polk. We had guys who, for all intents and purposes, didn't know what they were doing last year. Mayo was not a player's coach in the positive sense of the term. So, your ones and twos here. Your 1 and 2 here is definitely Henry and Hooper. I can see a point for either Bell or Dupre is that TE3. I do not believe we carry 4.
Interestingly enough, I understand your guys' points on like CJ Dupree and Jaheim Bell. Oh, I don't know if any other points you have before I move on. Okay, I just want to give my points. I understand. I love CJ Dupree coming out of college, even though it's Alabama, and I know that the quarterback that they have in Alabama doesn't have a good arm, and we know that he is a dual threat at best. He could be like your next Justin Fields currently, because he's good on his legs, but he's not like your best. It doesn't have like the best accuracy, if you want to say it, but we're not talking about quarterbacks. We're talking about tight ends. And the way Alabama uses it, I don't know, Andy, if you can look up CJ Dupree's pass blocking and run blocking for me, if you can. And as you look up, Andy, I also here's some news that I have coming out of OTAs that kind of shock you the most. As much as you guys alluded to having Jaheim Bell and CJ Dupree to be your tight ends 3, it was reported last Tuesday, excuse me.
Jack Westover, I believe
it was. It was Jack Westover.
Yeah, I remember reading about that. Yeah.
What are your thoughts on Jack Westover being like your tight end 3? Because I know that when Austin Hooper was absent, he took over the role as tight end 2, and obviously he played a huge role for the runner-ups of the Washington Huskies last college season. Well, 2023 to 2024. What are your thoughts on Jack Westover? Excuse me.
So hold on, Dave. Oh, Dave, where did that? That's my buddy at work. Dow. Oh my God!
We're having brain farts.
Said that. That's
You're
what.
Good. Just tell me the pass blocking and run blocking for
Pass
CJ
block
Dupree.
grade for CJ Dupree in 2024 was 36. So that's shit, to be frank. Again, we are talking about Alabama. That's his pass block grade. His run block was 64.8. So, again, not phenomenal. I remember, looking at it's like, oh, geez, look at these numbers here. Whereas if I were to actually, Dow, no, I'm going to let you make your point while I look up Jaheim Bell.
Oh, Well, actually, I was going to ask you before you look up Jaheim Bell, Andy, is what are your thoughts on Jack Westover?
Oh, my thoughts on Jack Westover. I actually didn't hear about. Thank you, Dustin, for pointing out that show from him at camp. I didn't hear about it. So if you wouldn't mind bringing the numbers up again for us, Dow. I do remember a little bit early ago being intrigued by Jack Westover. I mean, 2020, he did nothing to show in 2024, but his last, he just, kept going on the up and up his 4 seasons at college here. I mean, yardage 56, 342, 433. Touchdowns 0-1-4. Receptions 631, 46. This is clearly a guy on the upward trend. And yeah, I mean, looking at these stats, they're definitely interesting. So we could potentially be throwing a third guy here into the mix for TE3. I don't know if I am quite toward throwing him into the Bell Dupree mix yet, but we'll see how the summer plays out, and things could definitely trend in that direction.
I'm curious to see how those guys are going to perform in training camp. I think we'll be able to know more for sure, or like have a better idea. Not even towards training camp, but like the rest of these OTAs. Maybe even by the end of these OTAs, we might get more of a kind of clear, not a clear cut answer, but someone we can definitely pick at that point. It could, as far as Jack Westover, I'll be honest, I haven't looked much into him. I'm definitely gonna need to. After I believe it was Mike Grable that they interviewed and he was talking about him. I remember reading an article. I think it was a Evan Lazard article, if I remember correctly, talking about how Jack Westover's been getting some reps and has been apparently been, I wouldn't say balling out, but has been getting it up on the field a little bit. He's definitely been showing something. I'll be curious to see how the rest of these OTAs and then going into training camp, see how these guys do. I think it's really going to come down to what the staff is wanting to do with the tight end position. Are they going to want somebody that's that vertical threat that can be out there playing in the slot? Do they want to keep somebody that's more in line who can kind of do the little options, like block for a little bit, go out for a short completion? I think it's really going to depend on what they're wanting to do with the tight end position in the future. Obviously, Hunter Henry and Austin Hooper are both in their 30s.
Correct.
I mean, they're gonna need at least one of these tight ends that they brought in to like step into that role.
One, maybe two of the kids to preferably step up. Yeah. So PFF last year for Jaheim Bell, 58.7 on pass. 58.7 on pass and 66.7 on run. And that was for 2024. Now, if I go to 2023, what the crud? Huh? All right, I am completely.
Let me do Jaheim.
Yeah, all right. I'm just, that's weird. It's not giving me any stats for 2023.
That's shocking. But if I could find it, I think I have the No, I don't. I looked up the NFL draft profiles, but I don't think
Oh, that's because he played college in 2023, apparently. Interesting. I didn't
He had a
realize he was a
73
rookie.
point.
He was a rookie in 2020. Yeah, I'd forgotten
Yeah, he had
about
a
that. Silly me.
73.4 as an overall grade.
And a 64 run block.
That's interesting for a guy who is 6'1".
64 run block, 51.8 pass block in 23. Again, college player.
Interesting, but how about you, Austin? What are your thoughts on Jack Westover being your tight end 3?
Long shot. Yeah, I mean, I'd like to think that everybody has an equal chance with the new regime, so I'm not gonna completely close the door on that one. It's nice to see, it's not every week we're just seeing the same thing where it's like this guy's improving and then it's the next week and it's only that same guy improving. Like it could be, last week Antonio Gibson maybe doing something good, but then it's like, oh, Ramondre's out because unfortunately the passing of his father and like best friend has been like sidetracking him for some of that stuff. So then Lan Larison comes in and it's like, okay, now Lan Larison's the star this week. Oh, now Jack Westover's the star. Like it's nice that it's breeding competition within training camp, and I just hope that continues and that everybody gets the idea that nobody's job is safe. Like everybody has to go out there every week and prove why they deserve to be on that team.
Interesting. Like I see all sides of the point. Like one's favorite, one's Jaheim Bell, the other one's CJ Dupree, and one's Jack Westover to be the tight end 3. And good thing Mike Vrabel alludes to having some sort of competition, because we need to have some competition, considering the fact that we didn't have any competition last season because there was no competition. Basically, the coaching staff we had, it was a complete disaster, and we know for a fact that there was no competition in general.
Let me just throw a name into the ring. We're not going to discuss him, but I mean, who would have thought? Not a lot of people thought Joe Milton would get traded. So, and I think it might have been, I've seen it several times that Vrabel, with this entirely new regime, no guy on this roster is safe except for Drake May. Obviously you're going to have a 53-man roster. You have to have a 53-man roster. And us four are just talking about, we are not God's word. We are not fact. We are not fiction either. We're just talking about our predictions. And Drake May is the only guy at his position who is safe to make the roster. I mean, I know I might sound stupid here. But we could come out with a running back stable not a lot of people expect to see. Is there a major chance that will, am I saying I believe Ramondre Stevenson is going to get cut? Hell no. But might it happen? Is there a chance? Absolutely.
Interesting. Like with Jaheim Bell, and going back to Andy's point, after looking up some of the stats, Jaheim Bell wasn't completely utilized properly under AVP. And I have to make one point about CJ Dupree, Andy, and it was coming back from 2 Fridays ago when we did a show, you and me, when we discussed Chisholm, Dupree, and Kyle Williams. I saved that one question to ask Colby last Thursday, and I'm thankful that I asked this question to Colby, and I asked Colby about CJ Dupree making a name for himself for the tight end room. And he told me that people say that CJ Dupree, he's this tall guy, 6'5", but that was the only thing that was mentioned about CJ Dupree. But if we could see some production out of him tomorrow or heading towards mandatory minicamp, things might subject to change. Like I said, these are all predictions, or none of these are like set in stone, but this is just based off of like production that happened between college and what's been going on so far. So all of these might subject to change, but with Jaheim Bell, like going back to the Jaheim Bell point, I did not think he was utilized properly under AVP. But when he was in South Carolina, I know there were rumors that his mother felt like Jaheim Bell did not get the production that he wanted in South Carolina, which is why he was transferred to Florida State. And in Florida State, he made a name for himself as being one of those sneaky guys, like one of those underrated players. And then when we went into the draft, we all projected Jaheim Bell to be somewhere like in the 5th round or 4th round or 6th round. And surprisingly enough, he was a 7th round pick because of like his size and his like weight. Because generally, a tight end would be like 6'5". He would be like somewhere in like 260 pounds. I don't know. That's like your general typical tight end. But with Jaheim Bell, he was 6'1", which makes it weird, which is why he took a massive dip in the during the combine. So that's why he fell into the 7th round. But if I'm trying to look for comparisons, I'm trying to look at some old tight ends that I think were about his size, and I'm trying to see if I'm correct or not. And I think Aaron Hernandez, I know I'm not going to say his name, but he was also 6'2", and he played some interest as a player. I know we're not going to talk about Aaron Hernandez and what the hell he has been doing, but I'm just looking at some of his like career stats and why I think that Bell's package could be similar to Aaron Hernandez, because he could be like a receiver, he could be like your H-back, he could be a fullback. But do you think Jaheim Bell, Andy, could convert to more like a fullback considering like his size and skill set? What are your thoughts, Andy?
Yeah, I was just looking at a photo of Jaheim Bell, oddly enough that you mentioned that, Down. I think he absolutely could. Let me just pull him up again. I can't spell his name right now. Here we go. Jaheim Bell, South Carolina. Jeez. The cone of silence has descended. 6'2", 240. So I mean, yeah, that definitely is I would say a fullback light build on him. And if you guys, oh shoot, you guys can't see this photo on my phone. I don't know why that doesn't pick up, but yeah, I definitely think that is an interesting point that you make on the similarity of his builds to Aaron Hernandez. He's a 7th round 231. But yeah, I definitely think, that could definitely be, you could use him as a halfback. You could use him as a versatile, how do I say this, pass catcher, if you will.
How about you, Austin?
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of what I preached the whole time. I mean, even last year, like I said, like I was so upset the Patriots didn't utilize him properly. I mean, I would just play like Madden franchise and I would just be like lighting it up with this guy. Like he has good speed, he's good athleticism. Like I know it's a video game, but that also made me love him. And yeah, I mean, I don't want to give up on these people that we drafted last year. Yeah, and that goes for Polk and Baker too, where it's just all those guys were given the short end of the stick, and I don't think it's right to just flat out be like, yeah, they were bad, or oh, they play like shit, or like I think it's just clean slate and everybody like goes in. So
oh, man, I'm sorry, Austin. I have to. No, I understand where you're coming from, but I know you and I diverge here. The nonsense really gets to me. I mean, when you when you talk like that, I want to see you back it up on the field. Yes, I realize Polk and Baker were rookies. I was a big Baker guy coming into 2024. But if I were to ultimately, give one of those guys a chance on the 53-man roster, it would be Javon Baker. But this is one of those seasons where training camp is just going to be super interesting, because it used to be, it's like the past couple of seasons, it's like, how bad are the Pats going to be? I'm sorry, I'm segueing here, but the past couple of seasons, it was, how bad are the Patriots going to be? Now it's, geez, we've got these position battles to watch. We haven't had that in a while. So it's going to be, a very, very interesting summer.
How about you, Dustin? What are your thoughts on Jaheim Bell could potentially being like your H-back and fullback?
I'm not really sure. Honestly, if any way that I see him still making a team, with his size, his frame, his athletic ability, maybe he can be put out there on special teams, helping block for the punters. I couldn't find much on his blocking stats. Andy, if you could possibly look up his blocking stats. I don't know if we've already discussed that, but maybe New England does. Maybe they do decide that this is the year they decide to screw it. We're gonna go with a 4-man tight end room, because Hunter Henry and Austin Hooper are both 30. I think Austin's only on another 1-year deal, and then Henry, I think, has got 2 years left on I even forgot what his deal was, but I'm not going to say he doesn't have a chance. A lot of these tight ends in this room, really everywhere, a lot of people have a chance to compete. It's going to be a very competitive training camp. Any of these guys could get it, and I wouldn't object to any of these guys really getting it.
Oh, neither
it's not like
would I.
I haven't seen anything from these guys that's like, oh no, let's not have this guy at all. So,
by the way, it's 58 2024, 58-7 pass, 66-7 run. That's Jaheim Bell.
Okay, it's kind of right there at that average level, a little bit under, a little below average for the passing, but I mean, he could possibly do something at fullback, maybe help punch up the gut for a run game, or maybe they have him out there just to give those little quick passes for Drake May if he's like under some duress or something. Not really sure. It's, as Andy had talked about, it's going to be a very, very interesting training camp. It's going to be a lot of competitions.
Interesting. By the way, guys, I something come up in my mind, and I was like, since we're discussing tight ends, there's this news going around that Kyle Pitts, he's potentially going to be on the trade block from the Falcons, because we all know that the Falcons don't know how to utilize Kyle Pitts. Do you think, and these are just, and you can say yes or no and why, but do you think, Andy, we should trade for Kyle Pitts, and explain why?
So, okay, I admit I listened to a Chat Sports episode on Kyle Pitts a day ago. And I am not 100% in on signing him, because he is, the guy made the point that, he hasn't lived up to the billing of a 104, of a fourth overall pick. As you mentioned, now he is on the Atlanta Falcons, and they are pretty much, I mean, they could honestly, they could actually fairly properly utilize Austin Hooper. I remember that touchdown he caught in 51. But I mean, if I were to pull up, sugar peas. Let me just get Kyle Pitts' numbers here real quick.
Last season, he was a 59.6 overall. He was.
Yeah, and I remember it was a couple of seasons ago. I was in just like this automatic race to get him off my fantasy football team. I mean, I remember, I remembered, not such tight end 17 in 2024, correct. So I mean, would he be the stupidest guy to trade for? No. His overall grade, though, is his rookie year was an 80.3. His receiving grade was an 82.3. So he's actually, the guy was actually a fairly solid tight end up until 2024. Of course, we know how that went down with the Kirk Cousins and
Michael
Penix kerfuffle. And that might have been, honestly, might have been a reason for his fall off. To be honest, I haven't really given thought to trading for Kyle Pitts. I mean, he's an slightly above mediocre tight end. It's a coin flip for me now, to be honest.
How about you, Austin?
Yeah, I mean, I would like him. I struggle to figure out where he fits, though, and I just mean it because he hasn't necessarily lived up to the hype of. I think he went 5th overall a couple of years ago in that
4th
draft?
overall.
4th. So it's like, I don't know, the production to where you drafted him is just not where it needs to be for me.
Yeah, that was just my main point. He hasn't lived up to. I mean, like I said, I looked up his stats. He wasn't bad at all, especially his rookie year. But are those the grades you expect to see out of the 4th overall pick? Regardless of the team you were drafted by. I mean, look at what look at what Brock Bowers did for a bad Giants team last year. I mean,
you mean Raiders?
Oh, Brock Bowers Raiders. Yes, you're correct. Thank you. But yeah, I mean, look at what he did. He is not.
Yeah, I was gonna say,
Austin. He hasn't lived up.
In a lot of ways, the Falcons are kind of similar to the Patriots, where it's like just been a lot of turnover. Maybe not. I don't know exactly coaching staff. I can't remember who got fired or what, or if anything.
Neither
but
can I.
All I know is it's like they went from Matt Ryan to Desmond Ridder to Kirk Cousins to now Michael Penix in the span of like the same amount of time that we've had to go through Mac Jones,
in the
Bailey
span
Zappi,
of pretty much 4 to 5 years. Yeah.
And you make a good point too, where it's like Brock Bowers. His situation was probably worse than what
was
the Falcons
worse. Yes.
And
I mean, their quarterback situation last year was shit. I mean, you're talking Gardner Minshew,
and Aiden O'Connell,
exactly.
Yeah, and he just exploded onto this. Like, you're coming into the season going, yeah, that's a top 5 tight end. Like, no question. Where Kyle Pitts, you're just like, top 15, but nothing more. So, I mean, I definitely think he could carve out a role, but again, what role is that? We already have our tight end. So at most he's pushing Austin Hooper out. And I think Austin Hooper is a better blocker than Kyle Pitts. So again, where does Kyle Pitts fit in? Is he going to play out wide? Is he going to play off of the slot? Like, I don't know.
Yeah, like you said, I mean, basically we're agreeing on there, buddy. It's a coin flip. I mean, it would definitely be interesting to have him in here as kind of like a wild card. And we all love Josh McDaniels here, and we know he knows how to use his tight ends. But there's not a concrete role from him, so it's kind of redundant to bring him in now.
Yeah, versus say we never signed Austin Hooper, then that's
correct.
Something where you're going, oh yeah, I'd bring him in, but no.
Exactly. Yeah. Boom.
How about you, Dustin?
it's like Andy said. It's not something I really thought of ever actually happening. I haven't really been thinking too much of if like there's anywhere to need to improve. Where would they need, except for maybe left guard? But I'm not gonna rule it out of the question. But the deal would have to make sense. It would have it can't be for what he was projected to be coming out of the draft in his one season where he had 1,000 yards. It would have to be it from what I've read. I'm reading up a little bit on like the rumors and whatnot. Apparently, the Falcons do plan to retain it for 2025, but if they are planning to trade him, they are seeking at least a day 2 pick. And I don't see that. I don't see him being worth a day 2 pick. At least not for us. We have a second and a third. If we had a second or a third to spare, even that I'm not too sure if I would do it. We got a decent room of competition. The only way I see it happening, other than a deal that makes sense, is if like the other tight ends that we have, just other than Hunter Henry and Austin Hooper, just don't pan out at all. If they just completely lay an egg in training camp and they need a tight end in that room. But as right now, I don't really see it. It's gonna really depend on how training camp goes, and maybe if they come down in their deal a little bit, where it can be more of a steal than it is an overreach or an overpay. Excuse me. I don't see giving up a day 2 pick. I don't see it at all. At least for what New England has. We talk about us possibly making and seeking the playoffs, but we do need, again, kind of temper the expectations down a little bit. This is a whole new regime, whole different style of players, like everywhere on both sides of the field. We got a bunch of different players, bunch of different staff that's got to glue together. Is it possible? Yes, but I don't think they're going to be in a rush to get more pieces when they know we're still rebuilding.
Yeah, I definitely wouldn't give up a second. Somebody did float in the Discord chat yesterday, possibly giving up a third, but it sounds like basically that's a Dow. I think you will let you give your thoughts, but basically it's a pretty much more or less a consensus between the other three of us, re Kyle Pitts.
The thing with Kyle Pitts is man, is he is more of a receiving tight end, just like your Mike Gesicki. He is not like your typical blocky tight end, as we all know, Kyle Pitts. My thing with Kyle Pitts is, obviously, the Falcons misused him in so many ways possible. Under Arthur Smith, who has well used Jonnu Smith during his time, when he tried to use Kyle Pitts, it's a complete different animal. Like, the amount of talent that the Falcons have under Arthur Smith has been just horrible. Like, you have Drake London, you have Bijan Robinson, heck, you have Tyler Algier. The Falcons simply don't know how to use their superstars, including Kyle Pitts himself. But if I were to trade for Kyle Pitts, the best deal I could give him is it's more of a day 3, less so much of a day 2. He's more of like a 4th rounder, in my opinion, between a 4th and a 5th, because there is no way he is worth a 4th overall. And I don't know why the Falcons did that. I don't get it. But and before we log off for today, there's actually one more tight end I'm trying to think of, and that is who is with the Buffalo Bills right now, and that is Dalton Kincaid. And obviously, I don't want Dalton Kincaid, even though Dalton Kincaid hasn't been the Buffalo Bills style offense is more of like running the ball of itself and using like their mediocre wide receivers. But when it comes to like their tight ends, they don't generally use their tight ends. They don't use like Dawson Knox or Dalton Kincaid. But what are your thoughts on potentially trading for Dalton Kincaid, since he was like the first overall? No, not first. He was the first rounder in 2023. Starting with you, Andy.
All right. So I was okay. We had Kyle Pitts a couple days ago, and then Dalton Kincaid. I actually tried to make a case for trading for Dalton Kincaid. I was looking up stats and da 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 da. So let me just again go to my old friend PFF here, and so Dalton Kincaid is 25. He is not exactly old. We've been talking about Austin Hooper and Hunter Henry. We've been talking about their ages. Dalton Kincaid is not old, but I mean, his stats, it was tight end 13 on 2024, a little higher than I thought, actually. So offense, his offensive grade overall was a 71.5. His pass block was a 69.8. His run block was a 61.5. So pretty much all around looking at his numbers, he is not even as good overall a tight end as Kyle Pitts. He was slightly better in 2024 than Kyle Pitts was, but let me just cut to the chase right here. Again, like Austin said about Kyle Pitts, where are we going to use Dalton Kincaid on this roster? If memory serves me correctly, he is more of a pass blocking tight end, as if that makes any sense to you guys. But I just zoomed in. Weird. But anyway, no. I am a no-go on Mr. Kincaid from the Buffalo Bills.
How about you, Austin?
I would have to say no as well. I just think if we are truly in the market for a young tight end, I think there's other options we can look to. My personal favorite would be Michael Mayer from the Raiders, because that's a pick that the Raiders, took very high probably a couple years ago. So he's still young, but then obviously Brock Bowers fell into their lap. And it's one of those situations for them where it's like, even though they took the tight end a year or two prior, they wanted best talent available. So they take Brock Bowers.
And might I add, he's out of Notre Dame, which is fairly well known for its good tight ends, and the Raiders now have Bowers. So
I would definitely say Michael Mayer has very underplayed his draft stock. I mean,
Michael Mayer again. He's one of those guys. Correct me if I'm wrong, Austin, who's being misused by the team that drafted him. Either misused or the team just has other players that they're using instead.
That, I mean, he's kind of just looked at as an afterthought. I mean, he had the 2023 season. Again, he's working with, I don't know if it was Aiden O'Connell or Gardner Minshew or Jimmy Garoppolo was still throwing freaking passes for them in 2023. I forget. But he had 40 targets, 27 receptions, 304 yards, 2 touchdowns. Like, definitely not what you want to see out of a tight end that you draft highly like that.
No.
But then they go ahead and take Brock Bowers last year, and he had almost the same amount of targets and receptions, just way less yards and then no touchdowns. I would argue that he's just not being used properly, and that he could come to the Patriots for a cheap price. Like, I mean, I'm thinking, I don't know, a fifth maybe. So
How about you, Dustin?
I mean, as for the Dalton Kincaid, I don't see a world where New England can make a deal with Buffalo for Kincaid that would really make sense for New England to really execute it. So, I mean, they're in the same division, so I mean that alone is usually difficult for both teams to come agreements to. And I'm not really worried about our tight end room right now. I mean, until we get to training camp and they actually start competing, I'm not really interested, not even just the tight ends. I'm not really interested in trades at all with any team for any position right now. I mean, we need the whole idea of a trade happening at all, folks. Y'all just kind of tone that out. I'm really, as for any position on this team, the only position that I could even see would make sense for New England right now to possibly even do is left guard. But other than that, I just don't see a trade that would really make sense for them for really anything for anyone. We know we're rebuilding. I mean, yes, we got a lot better. Got a lot better for free agency, for draft, and all that. On paper, this is still a rebuild. We got to see how everything's gonna piece together. Got to make sure the players are healthy, make sure the staff's doing their job, make sure the players are doing their job before we'd even consider adding anything else. I think right now I am comfortable with where we're at right now. I'm ready to see some competition, ready to see what goes on in training camp and through the preseason. Once all that ends and the regular season starts, then I would say maybe even preseason, depending on how games go and how training camp goes. Maybe then we can possibly talk any like potential trade rumors. But right now, I just for New England, I just don't see it. It doesn't make sense.
Neither do I.
Yeah, I see both of your guys' points. I see Dustin's point about like how the tight end room has been really consistent, and the only position that kind of worries me a bit is the left guard position, because I remember day 3 of the
potentially right tackle.
Well, we need to see how well Caden Wallace performs, but
that too.
I just felt like during day 3 of the draft, we might consider tight end and left guard to be the positions, because the reason why I talked about tight ends, potentially new tight ends, is because Austin Hooper and Hunter Henry are in their 30s. We need a possibility of like having some development in a certain way. We need like a developmental tight end, because a young one, because we do not want old tight ends, even though I don't know who the oldest tight end right now besides Travis Kelce, but I just feel like tight ends, I think the tight end room has been really consistent, excluding 2019 and 2020. We all know what happened to the tight end room in 2019 and 2020 when we had who was
Dalton Keene
and Izzo
and Ryan Izzo,
and then we had Lacoste.
Matt Lacoste, yeah. Oh, shoot. I don't know. You guys might remember this. There was a mock draft where Rick Perry had us taking Tyler Warren. At the time, I really liked that. But in retrospect, it's like, no, that's stupid. I mean, if there was any... I mean, tight end was really less of a questionable position for us than running back by a considerable margin.
But maybe we might consider tight end next year's draft, because Hunter Henry has one more year on his deal. Austin Hooper, he's on his 1-year deal. There's a possibility we might need to draft a tight end, but so far our tight end room has been really consistent. I agree, Dustin, that left guard is a huge question mark, because ever since the departure of Chotini, I'm going to say this once more. I know we already discussed it in our offensive line live stream. Left guard is a huge question mark.
The departure of Tooney.
Yeah.
Correct.
And we thought Coldstream would work, but because of his durability, he was a liability, so we know left guard is a huge question mark of itself heading into the regular season. And I could see there's so much competition on the right side of the offensive line, less so much on the left side, but anything could happen here or there. But that's going to be it for today's live stream. All of you guys, and thank you guys for joining us on this lovely session here on the NA Patriots Talk channel. And sooner or later, starting next weekend, we're going to be heading over to the defense, and we all are so intrigued on the defense.
Oh, yeah. Because let me tell you guys, offense is a waiting game. Defense is a waiting game too, really. But on paper is where we've really improved. So we really hope we have an audience for that one, guys.
Oh, I'm so excited for the defense, but
it's gonna be so fun.
Any final words, or like maybe like teasers for what the defense live streams are gonna look like within the next few or couple of weeks? Because I know we're starting defensive linemen
We're starting
And-
with defensive linemen, and
edge rushers.
I have a feeling about Christian Barmore and Milton Williams. That could be a top 5, even top 3 defensive ideal duo in interior defensive line in the entire league. Like we did today, guys. I liked how we did it, not breaking down player by player, but breaking down like, okay, who do we think will carry? Some teasers, like you mentioned, Dow. It's like, where do we think these guys, what matchups do we think we'll see? It middle linebacker, outside linebacker, a corner, hybrid D-back, safety. I think that'd be a really, really nice way to break it down. Like, what combinations could we see on the field on any given Sunday?
How about you, Austin?
I think I'm excited most on defense to see the linebackers. I think we have a lot of linebackers, like just edge and middle, and it's just going to be interesting to see if one, I know everybody wants Tavai gone. I think I could see a path in which he's gone, and I think it's interesting because he's definitely the guy looking in, being like, "Shit, I got to get my act together," because there's a lot of young talent like in here trying to like make their mark, and if I don't, smarten up, then I'm gonna be looking at the exit.
Right,
so.
outside look. Hasn't Tavai played well in recent practices though? He has not looked bad, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, and I think if he keeps that up, he will have a spot. But I just
Absolutely,
think overall,
100%.
there's just so many bodies there on that defensive side.
I mean, we got Harold Landry, Jack Gibbons,
Jason.
Chason, yep.
Yeah, literally just linebacker, like edge, it would be like Keon White, Harold Landry, Braden Swinson, Truman Jones, Calevon Chason, Tavai, Spillane, Anthony Jennings, Christian Ellis, Monty Rice, Jack Gibbons. Like, there's a lot of names to go around.
The list, yeah.
How about you, Dustin?
I'm ready for this overall defensive discussion. I'm excited for like our front seven entirely. We got more answers for pass rush. We got some more solidified bodies there for the interior. I feel like we're going to do better both in the run and pass game. I feel like we'll be able to plug up the gaps a lot better. I feel like we'll be able to get the quarterbacks better. I will say I am really curious. I'm really curious to see how Carlton Davis does paired up with Gonzalez. I'm really, really curious to see how that duo is going to work out. Like on a Cincinnati. Do we play Cincinnati this year? I feel like we do.
We do. We're at Cincinnati again.
A Gonzalez and Carlton Davis versus T. Higgins and Jamar Chase. That is a game I will be very entertained to watch. I would definitely be entertained to watch that.
And another something, if I may just add, Keon White. I cannot wait to see how Vrabel and Williams use him. Because I don't think either Belichick or Mayo, definitely not DeMarcus Covington, let's not say that name again, knew how to properly use Keon White.
Yeah, I gotta say, to be honest, when it comes to like making content in general, I would prefer talking about the defense, less so much on the offense, if you can all agree with me, because
100% agree with you.
Because because there's so many question marks on the offense and then less question marks on defense. Because to be honest, throughout free agency and the draft, I think the most improved area has been the defense because we obviously know that the defense took a massive step back, and we all know that the Patriots are really good with their defense in general. So that's just my hope and prayer, and I'm more excited for the secondary in general because I love the secondary in general. That's what I gotta say, and I just think that the amount of content and the amount of traction we discuss on defense is just gonna be a lot great. So please stay tuned to all of this throughout the entire month. But that's going to be it, folks. Stay tuned for the defensive linemen, linebackers, and edge rushers. And as always, please like, subscribe, and turn on the bell for these notifications because you do not want to miss on these defensive live streams.
And if you want more Pats coverage, guys, you know where to come. I mean, we always welcome your comments. Please and thank you kindly. We only had Luke chime in tonight. Shout out to my guy Luke Neely over there in the land of Oz. We appreciate you for listening tonight. And yeah, so whoever's tuning in, feel free to drop your comments, and we always value your input. Adding
This
another
week-
dimension to the
And
show.
like and subscribe. Definitely like.
This
and
week it's gonna
subscribe.
be
get this video out there.
This week is going to be crowded because we got final days of OTAs, and I got a special live stream with Thomas discussing some Craig Woodson because I'm
Ooh.
intrigued about this guy. But
we've all got decent thoughts on one Craig Woodson right now. So
Oh,
that'll
yeah.
be, it's gonna
we
be
should
good.
we should do a live stream on this one.
On
but
just Craig Woodson
I would love to do that.
with
What are your
Thomas. Maybe Dow try it out.
Well, we shall see, but well, maybe we can include Thomas into the mix. Have all 5 of us, but we shall see. But as always, guys, thank you for watching, and as always, go Pats.
Go
Pats.
Patriots.
Go Pats.